Food is a major part of New Orleans culture. The two major cuisines of the city are Cajun and Creole. Some examples of classic Creole dishes are crawfish etouffee, oyster Rockefeller, and red beans and rice. Classic Cajun dishes are boudin, gumbo, and jambalaya. This video will explore the two cuisines in further detail.
The original Creoles were the children of European aristocrats in New Orleans. They were usually second-born sons who could not own land or titles in their home countries, so they were given the opportunity to thrive with their family traditions in the New World. The Creole people can be traced back to two origins, Spanish and Latin cultures. The first documents in Creoles were in Mobile, Alabama around 1702, Natchitoches in New Orleans around 1714 to 1718. Today, Creole is used to represent native-born children of the intermarriage of early cultures that settled in the city.
The term Cajun is derived from the word Acadia, which was a British-ruled colony in the Canadian Maritime Provinces. The Acadians were originally French colonists, but the British took over the territory in 1711. During what is known as the Great Expulsion, the British exiled the Acadians from this territory during the French and Indian War for aiding the French. Many fled to the French territories of Louisiana. There they became known as the Cajuns.
Cajun's more rural-based. I mean, not as formal as Creole. Creole uses French methods, and so do the Cajuns, but it's more Parisian cooking, namely with their stock. Okay, they make a stock. We all make a stock. You know what a stock is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if a French person from Paris and a Creole person from New Orleans who does Creole cooking would never make a stock other than a clear stock. You put all your ingredients in, but when the stock is completed, you put them out and strain it. Where a Cajun just leaves everything in. This is a general rule. Also, the Cajun food is based on a lot of game, like venison, possum, squirrel, that type of thing, and they need to take their roux dark, very, very dark, almost to the edge of being burnt, because the darker the roux, the more flavor it has, and it covers up the gamey taste. Also, when the Cajuns came here and settled in the prairies west of Lafayette, they didn't have as much access to the seafood, so they used chicken and they used their game and all that to prepare their meals, so they needed that darker. Now, also, they do not use tomatoes in their food, like the jambalaya. You never see tomatoes in a Cajun jambalaya. And another difference is Cajun food seems to be a little hotter. They use a lot more pepper. You know, they kick it up a notch, as Emerald Lagasse would say. Where Creole, we depend more on the layering of the flavors and not so much on the hot Tabasco type spice. So I think that's probably the main difference between the two.
I think Creole cuisine defines New Orleans. I think that the history of the people of New Orleans, I don't think you can separate the people from the cuisine. I think that you'll find that New Orleans is a mixture of people and styles, and that's what Creole cuisine is all about as well. And so you have a mixture of Cajun cooking, like kind of more country style of cooking. You have Spanish and French influences that you've gotten throughout the history of New Orleans. I mean, the African influences, island influences, and really even Italian influences as well that have all kind of come together and sort of built on one another to make Creole cuisine sort of what it is today.
Well, actually, Paul Prudhomme, I remember I mentioned him a lot. He's the one that's really influenced it, because when he opened up his restaurant in 1979, the Creole food here was kind of down in the doldrums. They have about 6 dishes that everyone made, and he kind of brought it up to where it is today. He integrated all the food from Louisiana. And nowadays you go in a restaurant and it's sort of mixed. Cajun is mixed in with this regular Creole food. But if you go to somebody's house, like my house, I'll cook more in the Creole style. If I go to my friend's house in Lafayette, she will cook more like a Cajun would. So in the restaurants, it's not so different, but Paul Prudhomme put a lot of new blood, let's say, into the culinary landscape of the city.
I think as time has gone on, most people would consider them almost one and the same. I mean, with people's ideas of what is Cajun, what is Creole, I think have merged together in quite a way. And I think you'd be hard pressed if you start to research, you'll find a lot of the dishes are characterized one way or the other or both. And so sometimes it's hard to say that there is a distinct black or white. I think that it's impossible not to be that way. I mean, I think that if you want to look at, say, what's happening in like Acadiana, the style of cooking that they have out there, I mean, I think that you would be hard pressed to say, okay, here's the line where that style of cooking starts, and here's the line where the style of cooking that you find more in Southeast Louisiana starts. So. Yeah, and as with any kind of culture or any kind of cooking, with the free flow of information and people are traveling and the internet, all these styles and things just kind of weave together, and become. It's inevitable that they become sort of one. The flip side is that the Cajuns, the remaining Cajuns, had a very proud culture, and I think that while they're struggling to hold on to that identity, I think that they probably are more apt to accomplish it because of some of the language differences and because of their physical location, out where they are. So it's amazing that they've lasted as long as they have.